Hey, welcome to Bring on the Sabbath. Glad to have all y'all joining us this evening out there. Good to be back here. And we have John Reedy here tonight with us.
Good
to
evening,
have you, John.
everyone. Glad you could be here. Just sit back and relax for the next hour or so, and we'll bring on the Sabbath to you.
Yeah, we won't actually get.
We may not make it to the Sabbath because the Sabbath is 8:30.
Last week Wynn was here and we did not quite make it.
Did not quite make it. We may make it this week till 8:30. I don't want to keep people too long with us because.
And we'll welcome back John to bring on the Sabbath, and Jeff, welcome back from last week.
Actually,
I'm so glad that I don't have to do all of the medias tonight.
Yeah, there was a lot of media to have to look through.
Was.
So I'm looking at the Facebook right now. I see Brian Renaud. I see Amy Hohertz saying hello to all the Botch gang.
Hey,
so I'm going to do my best to see who's on there. Royal Ann Mall says Shabbat Shalom, beloveds. So we're keeping up with the folks. I think my name is listed as Wynn Skelton, I thought.
Yes,
on there for a
was.
second. Yeah, so I'm not Wynn Skelton, I'm Jeff Reed. But we'll change that the next time the names come up on here. But we'll be monitoring your Facebook, so give us your your shout outs, your comments, your questions. Put them out there on our website, and we're on Roku. You can always watch on YouTube as well. And we have Benjamin Franklin area says God bless you as well, who's watching on Facebook.
Philippines? Which one? Where is he from?
I don't know.
Okay. I was thinking he was one of the guys from the Philippines. I remember. Yeah. Okay, well, I've got Margie over here, and I've also got Grover Smith and Christine T. And then we also have Rick Four, William. I don't see Mimi on here yet. She might be roaming around the way. Carl is also on here, and Lumberjack. Happy Sabbath to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Upcoming Sabbath. We're so glad you came.
Yeah, it may be the Sabbath somewhere, but not here.
Yeah. I think it is on the East Coast.
In the Philippines, and people who are watching. I know we have people watching in the Philippines, people watching in
I haven't seen Barry in a while.
India and different places around the world. So
our friend from Australia.
And Australia, people are watching there as well. So again, glad to be here. So first thing, we'll just go over some announcements. Just want to remind everybody, Feast of Tabernacles is coming up. You can visit our, we have a slide for the Feast of Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles coming up. You can visit our page, cgi.org. And on the very top up there, it says FOT, and that's the Feast of Tabernacles. Just click on that, and we'll take you and give you all the information about our different Feast of Tabernacle pages that we have. And what about Sabbath services tomorrow?
Well, we are having Sabbath services tomorrow here at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time on cgi.org, at our YouTube channel, and also on Roku and Facebook. And our sermon will be given by Mr. Jeff Reed. Jeff, what are you going to speak on tomorrow?
I'm going to be talking about dead malls and dead churches.
Ooh.
So what are the similarities between a dead mall and a dead church? And I think I found some similarities between the two. You may agree, disagree, or have some others you may want to,
Maybe I'm going to tune in for that. We have to go out of town tomorrow, but I'm tuning in.
Yeah, so it's
That's
definitely,
awesome.
hopefully it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be, how do we not be a dead church? And then when I talk about church, I'm not talking about the spiritual organization.
Or maybe what your church should not look like.
Yeah, I'm talking about your individual church organization, not the church that Jesus said will last until he returns.
Right.
I'm talking about your little organization. So this should be interesting, hopefully.
Well, in addition to that, we're also going to be broadcasting from Medina, Ohio at 10 a.m. on our second CGI Digital Network channel. So if you can't join us here at 11 Central, go ahead and join us from our Medina service at 10 a.m.
Yeah, the Medina service is actually getting pretty popular now. A lot more people are you can tune in at an hour early, watch Medina, and if once the sermon's over, turn it over. We'll be just starting, so that's always good as well.
Yeah. All right. So you're gonna. Let's see. We got Adrian coming up next. There he is.
Yeah, Adrian, you can join us Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Adrian Davis will continue his Bible study on Luke, the good news of the kingdom of God, and so tune into that on Wednesdays.
Awesome. And then also you can join us on Tuesdays now for a new pre-recorded podcast that will broadcast Tuesday at 6:30 Central here at CGI.org, and also all of our other networks. Bill Watson is going through the book of Romans.
Yeah, this is a pre-recorded webcast. It's pretty interesting where he's going to go through the book of Romans and go to every book. Now the thing is, because it's pre-recorded, if you're watching live like this, if you send us say, hey, like a shout out or a comment, he's not going to get it right then.
Right.
We do have a email address that you can email your questions and comments. And what he'll do is Bill's going to record his answers to those comments and those questions that will play the next week. So it's going to be like a little week delay, but we're still going to try to make it interactive. We wanted to do that to give you that Bible study, because I think it's going to be very beneficial to everyone.
The book of Romans is probably the best book out of the New Testament to go through, because you really get an overview of what the New Testament church was like and some of the things that they were dealing with. And it is really an eye-opening book. I don't think we could get through the New Testament without having the book of Romans. It just offers so much to us.
Yeah, it's a good Bible study. So tune in. Would you say Tuesdays at 6:30? And I want to say hello to my mom who's watching out there, my dad, and I see Nancy White is tuned in on Facebook. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
And Mahai Saliver says shalom, and quite a few. And I advertised this today to the Sabbath keeping community, so we may get some new people from that community joining us. So glad to have y'all, if you're new watching, to be a part of what we're doing here.
Well, I have a couple of new ones also. I have John Black, who I didn't mention before. He was on. And then also Trudy51. And Margie says she is not getting sound, so she's going over to our YouTube channel.
Okay. Does everybody else should be getting sound? I hope.
Grover's friend says that Jeff does not look like Win.
Yeah. So the name said Win, but definitely I don't have the Win look.
Well, let's talk about bots. We are here tonight, but we will not be back until July the 14th. We've got some big plans.
Yeah, July 14th. So that's a month. So what's happening this next month is that we have a board meeting here at the office next week, and being an employee, I have to prepare for that. It's very important that once a year board meeting that we have, and we have. I'm going to take a vacation the week after that, and
Sorry, vacant. No kidding.
and after that. We have summer camp.
Woo!
And again, so next week we'll be putting a lot of preparations and getting ready for summer camp. So summer camp is very important to us, and you're going to something after summer camp.
Yes, we are actually. My daughters and I are going to Camp Outreach up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm excited to take my oldest daughter there for the second year, and my younger daughter, who is just old enough to go in, she's going to go for the first year. And that is a fantastic opportunity for all kids. It's pretty central, so anyone in the nation could go. And they help inner city families that are impoverished, and they rebuild homes, and they deliver food, and they provide a VBS for their children there. And it's just really a great work that Guy and Jennifer Swinson are doing there.
Yeah, it's been going on for several years. They've been very successful at it. Also, just by way of interest, I'll be in Morehead, Kentucky, July the 1st to meet with a group up there. I'm going to be going over some things at the feast and meeting with some friends I met the last couple of years up at Land Between the Lakes at the feast. Very wonderful little congregation. So if you're close to Morehead to July the 1st, stop in for services there.
Great.
Sounds great. And
But
so,
Jeff, I'm sorry, getting back to camp.
Yes.
We had our camp scheduling meeting, and we have got some great things scheduled for camp, for our camp, the first week of July. The kids are going to be making some videos. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we're going to be out. We're going to be. I think what do you call it? A hiatus.
Yes.
We're taking a little hiatus from our
Hiatus.
programming for about a month because we have a lot going on in this next month. And we'll be back. And when we come back on July 14th, we're going to hit the ground running. And we're going to have a show the week after that, which is the 21st, where we'll have some kids from camp.
That's right.
And from Camp Outreach.
I won't be
we'll show
here.
our video.
I won't be here on the 14th. I'm going to be at Camp Outreach.
Yeah.
I can't travel back that fast.
We make a call you or something.
Yeah.
From here if we can.
How many
Well, we're
children
going to present
planning
it.
for camp?
We have about 16 for camp right now. So
Yes.
very good. And we also appreciate everyone who's given donations because some donations have helped some kids go to camp who otherwise
right.
would have not been able to. So thank you for that as well. All right, so I guess I've seen the comments here. And you may be wondering what I'm doing. I'm up here on my computer. I'm kind of looking up. I'm looking down. What I'm doing is I'm actually sharing our feed to different Facebook groups. This is a way to share what we're doing. So if you're out there watching on Facebook, share it on your own page, or share it with a group you're a part of.
I'm about to share it right now.
Yeah, share it right now. Share it right now. Maybe a way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back here in just a minute or so. We'll continue.
Hi, we'd like to offer you 2 booklets on today's program. We want to offer you, Is Jesus Really God? There's a lot of controversy about who and what Jesus was. We also want to offer you, What is God? Of all the theological questions that evoke controversy in the ancient church, the question of who and what God was one of the major questions. It's even a major question today. You can order by visiting our website, www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org.
Hey, and we're back. Hey, glad to have you back. Derek Huntley has joined us on Facebook, and Alan McCarty, and Rita Orgel, and Linda Draper-Satarsky. So happy Sabbath to all those who've joined us on Facebook. Anyone else on
Welcome to everyone.
Oh, there's Mimi. She's here.
Mimi, oh yes, always
Carl,
good to say hi to
Carl
Mimi.
said that she was probably eating, and that's what she said she was doing.
Yeah, grab your plate, and bring it to the TV set if you're watching on Roku, or sit
Hope
behind
you
the
had
computer.
pizza like us.
Yeah, and enjoy your meal as we bring on the Sabbath here.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have for us tonight, Lisa?
Well, tonight my topic is actually called Trials That Deepen You. This week has been a really hard week, and John was feeling that too this week. But I feel that the trials that I've had have been useful to expand my faith and my character. Now, my college course is accelerated right now, and it's a big challenge, especially going back to school after 20 years. And the learning curve that I have is great, but I'm pushing myself and I'm giving my mind a workout. But on Sunday, in the middle of my studies, and when I was finishing up my lessons, I got a call that no one really wants to hear. My sister called me to tell me that my mom had signs of a stroke. And my mom was visiting my sister in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she was away from home and she was away from me, and I'm her medical power of attorney. So I'm used to taking care of all of her health stuff, but there was not much I could do at that point except spend time making sure that my sister knew exactly what to do for her. So I shared information over text and the phone, and to say the least, I was getting anxious about the whole situation. But I stopped and I took a moment to pray about it. And it was late Sunday when I decided to form a prayer chain on Facebook for my mom. As the comments about people praying rolled in, I recognized that my anxiety was actually waning, and that I was able to focus again on the task at hand, which was taking care of my mom and also my schoolwork. Monday morning came, and my sibling group texts and the touch and go situation with my mom, with all of that going on, my anxiety started to creep in again. Well, it seems to be that wait and see is the thing that makes me so anxious. I think that most of you know that feeling. We don't really know what the outcome's going to be, but we know it could be good or it could be bad. And I tend to focus on the bad, and I just want to be prepared for it. And I think that's my anxiety, is the fear that the bad will not be manageable. But let's look in the Bible. In Isaiah 35, verse 4, and I'm paraphrasing this a bit, but it says, "To those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear." And also in John 14, verse 27, it says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Well, it was confirmed later that day on Monday afternoon that she had had a stroke. She received beta blockers, and the cause was hypertension coupled with her diabetes. Her cholesterol was running high also. But the doctor and the staff at the hospital had a plan of medicines and rehab in place for her that day. I didn't have to prepare for the bad. The plan of action was already there. This made me breathe a sigh of relief. And as I have a lot on my plate here at home with my college class, I gave all of my fear and anxiety away to Jesus at that moment. But why didn't I do it before? So can't God, who's greater than the doctors, the nurses, and the therapists, take care of the situation and resolve it so that I don't have to be preparing anything? Well, of course he can. In Joshua 1 verse 9, the Bible reads, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Why, oh why, didn't I hear that scripture when I first got that phone call? Well, I feel that in the past few months that I've gotten a little less anxious about trials in my life. I'm really trying to listen to and apply all the things that I'm saying here and all the things that I'm hearing here on Bots, and as well as other Bible studies and spiritual interactions. And I mean, just things, church, the Bible, and things like that. But it's easy to preach, quote unquote, something, but not near as easy to apply it to your own life unless you have that practice already present in your life. So my anxiety or fear is really a shortage of faith. I have had varying degrees of faith throughout my life, but I feel as if I'm building it right now. Without the building of that faith, especially with the things that go on in the world today and the personal trials that I face daily, life could really be devastating. I want to share this with you, the viewers, right now, because I know that you face trials every day as well. This example of my mom, it's just a very simple example. But I want you to remember that when trials come and the rain pours down, you don't have to fear. In fact, James 1, verse 2 through 3, it says, "My brothers and sisters, you will face all kinds of trouble. When you do, think of it as pure joy. Your faith will be tested. You know that when this happens, it will produce in you the strength to continue." Now, the trials that you face can and should deepen your faith and deepen you in faith and in God's love. Most of the time, the trial or the test is given to make sure that you rely on the Father or on the faith that God will provide for you. There's a line from a movie that called God's Not Dead Too, and I really love this line. The main character is a teacher named Grace, and she's facing an incredible trial. She's in court because she talked about Jesus in her public school classroom. And the best line of that movie is actually spoken by her grandfather, who's played by Pat Boone. He's a very Christian person. And just after she says that she feels as if she's alone and that she can't feel God's presence like she usually does, he says to her, "Remember, when the teacher gives a test, the teacher usually remains silent." So, it's in the times of trials, that we need to let the trial deepen us to a stronger faith in the one who, as in Isaiah 35 verse 4, with divine retribution will come to save you.
Really good, Lisa.
Thank you.
Just with what I've gone through things this week too, and I can tell you another scripture that I've learned to recite over the years, and I've used it at least 6 times this week.
Oh, let us know.
Literally, it's what Paul said in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me.
Yeah,
and I have used
that's
it
a
at
great
least 6 times this week.
Yeah.
So yes, it's part of life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was at the school. I work at a little school, and the kids were really kind of battling me that day, especially my own. And I just love those days. But especially my own was giving me some troubles one day. And I just looked at her and I thought, this is going to be an impossible task. And then I just started singing, I've got that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Where? And then I told another teacher about it. And then her son ended up doing something that was similar. And I looked at her and we both started singing, I've got that joy, 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 joy. We had the funnest time just remembering, you know, we just have to remember that God's there.
You got to have something to get you through all of it, and it's
That's true.
part of life, and nobody is immune from it. It's
Absolutely.
going to affect you.
We all
right.
go through trials. Rita Orgel, who's joined us from Florida, says, because you're human, worry about your parents is normal. Says you're a very good person, loving and caring.
Oh, well, thank you, Rita.
So Rita, you know
We
Rita,
miss
right?
you. Oh yeah, very well.
Yeah.
Miss John too.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's
about that trials. I remember I had the biggest trial of my life was now. If I look back on it, was probably in 2003. So was that like 14 years ago, where I had cancer. And I had surgery to remove that cancer. And I tell you what, I was more scared than I ever been before in my life. Before I had that surgery, before they cut me open, cut open my chest and go in, and they pull the bones back, and they were going to pull out a grapefruit size cancer out of there. And I tell you what, I had some fear before that, and I had some apprehension because when something like that happens, even though you say, hey, I've studied God's word, I have faith, when something like that happens, it gets really tough.
Yeah.
But it was after, and this is what was after the surgery happened, and when I opened my eyes and I was in the hospital, and the first people that came and saw me was a guy named Tim, who was in our church there in Birmingham. I saw Tim come into I guess he snuck into the ICU. I don't know if he's supposed to be in there. And he comes in, and I'm like, do my best to stay awake or whatever. But seeing someone from the church just to uplift, and then my parents and my family and the uplifting and the faith that they have and the faith that the church has. And so I think a lot of that, when we have trials, we have to give that love to each other, so we go through it together,
Absolutely.
And that's what I remember from that is that if you have trials, God will take you through it, and His people will be there for you.
Thank you, William. I've got a message over here from William. He
All
says,
right.
"Hey, great sermon, Lisa." I wasn't trying to preach. I really don't try to. I really just want to do Christian living things, and for a couple of days I couldn't figure out what I was going to talk about, and I went to this site that kind of prompted me to think about it, and I thought, well, and then I knew. It's just like I knew right away.
All right, well, joining us online here, I have Josh Webb. So Josh and Brandy's going to be at camp with us. It's good to have them watching. Trudy Cranford, always on YouTube. Marjorie Wilson, I think she's between two places. We have Birgit, probably between two places, and Birgit and Thomas Chambers on YouTube. So we don't want to leave those folks behind on YouTube. And again, we've had a lot more join us. Shelly Chambers, Bridget Vestal says happy Sabbath from Whitney, Texas. Where's Whitney, Texas?
It's over south of Dallas.
South of Dallas.
South of
Okay, so
Dallas,
hello,
yeah.
Bridget, and then we had Hotmanot has happy Sabbath from Manila. So those have joined us as well as we're on here. So
Well, I have Lena too. Also, Sister with Love is with us now.
All right.
And Kevin Hessville. And
Kevin in Hessville.
Kevin Hessville.
Yeah, I think it's Kevin
I
in
think
Hessville.
Kevin in Hessville.
Yes.
So, well, it just says Kevin Hessville. It's all shoved together.
Yeah, he was actually because Wes White does the Start Our Sabbath,
Oh, yeah.
and he did it last week, and Kevin from Hessville was there with.
Oh, that's
Wes.
right, in Indiana.
And so it's like,
That's
so I
right,
saw him. So it's like, hey, it's good to see
Wes was
see
at his
somebody.
family reunion, probably
Yeah, he was
grouching
there.
the whole way through now.
Yeah.
Right, Nancy?
But it was good to see Kevin from Hessville
Oh, no,
on,
wait,
that,
that's
on,
only
that,
with
on
her
that
family.
program
No, I'm
last week.
And Mimi says love is so important when we are facing tough days. We need to
And also,
love more.
Mimi is a good person in that when you are going through the trial, Mimi will have a card for you,
I know, and I
signed
love her cards.
by
They're
a
so
lot
sweet.
of people. So that's what it is. When you go through trials, you have to have we have to lift each other up, and those are important things.
Mimi pours love into those cards.
Yeah.
That is just her ministry.
It's a special gift to be able to do that. It takes a certain person to be able to come through like that with cards.
We love you, Mimi.
thoughts.
Yes. All right, well, we're going to take another short break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, we'd like to offer you a free booklet on today's program. We want to offer you the booklet, Evolution, Fact or Fallacy. No one can deny that our complex universe is an astounding, majestic marvel, but how did it get here? Where do we come from? Does it really matter? Can it be, as so many contend, that this all just happened by some fortuitous cosmic accident? Or did it come about as a result of careful design of an infinite God? Here are the facts you need to know. Get Evolution, Fact or Fallacy. Visit our website, www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org.
Hey, all right, we're back. I got a special shout out I want to do if he's watching. Dan Sawyer, that's Mad Dog Dan Sawyer, who I know from wrestling. Back when I was in Birmingham, Alabama, I worked with him on Global Championship Wrestling. And Mad Dog's a great wrestler. It was great to be a part of filming wrestling before I came here. And actually, everything I learned at wrestling, I've been able to apply towards church. And it's very good to have Dan join us. So good to see you on there, Dan. All right, so what do you got for us tonight, John?
All right, good evening, everyone. Glad to have you with us. Those of you that I don't know, I'm not here that often, but certainly glad to be here and glad to say hello to you. Just sit back and relax and listen for about 15 minutes. I got something I want to share with you. Certainly it's good to be here and bring on the Sabbath. I think as you get older, you appreciate the Sabbath so much more. When you're young and 10, 12, 15 years old, when I was years ago and first came into the church and first started keeping God's Word, you got too much energy to really get involved that much with the Sabbath. But over the years, you learn to appreciate how important it is and what it does have to offer for people. What do most people want out of life? I think there are a lot of things people want, but generally you hear the same topics from people as they go through life. And if you've known people for several years, they want to be successful, they want to be happy, and as I think Mr. Spock said on Star Trek, live long and prosper. That's kind of how people look at it. But so many people don't have that. They have problems. And if I were to ask you how many of you know someone that has had a messed up and destroyed life, I think all of us would be able to mention a lot of names and a lot of different people. For those of you that don't know what I do, I have a landscape business. I employ about 20 people. I've been in business for 38 years, and it is tragic. It is heartbreaking to hear and see some of the things that people go through each and every week. It is truly amazing the problems that people have. And if you can impart a little bit of something to them and maybe get them on the right track, it'll work wonders in their life. What is it going to be that would need to help people begin to recover a little bit, to begin to correct some of the things in life that they have, some of the baggage that they have with them, because the baggage is not going to go away. Some of the things that have happened, they're going to be scars, they're going to be there, they're just not going to be able to get rid of it. But with a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, they can make a few changes in their life. And the one thing that the world lacks most is a very simple term, a very simple subject that people don't understand that we don't have it and don't know it because we have so much knowledge out there. And it's not knowledge that the world really needs. What the world needs and what people need to help correct their lives are wisdom. Knowledge, there's too much knowledge out there. Not all knowledge is good, as you well know. If you go back, you don't have to go any further back than Adam and Eve. You know, all the knowledge that they had was great until they did what they shouldn't have done with it. And the misapplication of that knowledge of what they were told to do created problems. Wisdom is the ability to live life skillfully, to apply what you know as knowledge and put it to work, put it to use. You know, when you're in business and when you deal with anything, whether it's in a landscape business, construction business, if you're in an IT business, you have manuals that tell you how to operate things. Mm-hmm. And you have to operate them properly, you know, or they're just not going to work. God has given us a very simple tool right here in front of us, and a lot of people shy away from this book, which is full of wisdom. It's full of knowledge, but it's also full of wisdom as to how to get along in life and how to do things in life. And the book of Proverbs, if we're going to talk about with a couple scriptures, it is a book of wisdom. It was referred to in rabbinical literature as the book of wisdom. Commentaries look at it as the book of wisdom. And if you can do anything as a Christian, you know, a lot of people don't want to listen to you and talk to you when you mention the word God or His laws. But if you could do anything as a Christian, is to get people just to sit down and read the book of Proverbs, I think they could make a major change in their life. The book relates to God, to parents, to friends, to neighbors, to how to get along with people in government, how government should work, how to become educated and understand how life works and the things that we should and shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. You know, Proverbs also says that there is a way which seems right to a man, but at the end thereof are the ways of death. It's in the book of Proverbs. And when you go through life, and we have an attitude today as we know what is right from wrong, we have a little bit of a problem, because it leads to things that really should not be. Adam and Eve thought they knew what was right and wrong. It didn't work. Wisdom in the Hebrew means, in the Proverbs, the way it's used, means the ability that brings continued advancement. And if you want success, if you want to improve life, if you want to avoid some of the pitfalls that so many people make, just have people read the book of Proverbs and they could gain so much from it. You know, God is a part of it. Wisdom and knowledge are a part of God, and to use wisdom and knowledge as of apart from God is going to lead to failure. It's just not going to work. Over in Proverbs chapter 1, let's read just a few verses as to what it does and what it offers to people. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. In other words, how are you going to operate in life? How are you going to function in life? What's going to help you to avoid the pitfalls that so many people get into? And I could tell you for several hours the pitfalls that I have witnessed and seen people experience over the last 38 years. And it is astonishing. It's amazing what people go through. And a simple little change in their understanding and the way they apply some of the knowledge that they understand would have made a world of difference in their lives. You know, when you have 2 child supports and you're living with a third woman with possibly a child on the way, how are you going to get ahead in life? You can't. You can't. Yeah. There's a young man that I heard of yesterday. He has 2 child supports. One child support is to his ex-wife who's in prison. Another child support is to a father who has custody of another child. And he is living with a wife who possibly is going to be having another child. Now, how do you get ahead in life that way? Mm-hmm. And this is just one of dozens
as
and
employees
dozens
that you have, or just no?
It's an employee.
Yeah, because I used to work in restaurant business, and what you're saying applies. A lot of the folks who would come work for there did not know how to apply wisdom, and so many decisions were made were living in poverty or not paying the bills and involved in drugs and all types of things. And I'm just like, oh, there's so much a simpler way.
Well, when people have trouble making ends meet and they go out and buy a set of wheels for their truck that's $2,200, what is the wisdom in that?
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
It happens all the time, and I've had over the years probably 500 people who have worked for me here in Tyler, and it's just one after another. Mm-hmm. And you can give them a little bit of advice, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of direction, and a few of them have applied it. They've listened. But the majority, well, that's not any fun.
doesn't
We're
feel
going to
good.
do it anyway.
Yeah.
It goes back to the 60s, which
I think it
I'm
goes-
old enough to be
It
there.
goes back further than that.
If it feels good, do it.
Babylon.
And that is a statement that has been
Thinking
going on.
Babylon attitude.
Yes. Verse 5 says, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and people need to increase their learning. And a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. You know, don't hang out with people that are fools, literally. Hang out with people that understand life and how it works. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. If you can get people just to acknowledge God as the creator, as the author of wisdom and knowledge, and just listen and understand a few of the things from the book of Proverbs, your life is going to be entirely different. It truly is. And if you go over to Proverbs chapter 4, this is what it offers you in life as far as wisdom. Hear, my son, receive my sayings, chapter 4, verse 10, and the years of your life shall be many. People want to live a long life. They want to have a successful life and a productive life. But when you are constantly shooting yourself in the foot by things you do and choices you make, it is not going to work. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in right paths. Yeah, God's way may seem restrictive. It may seem out of date, but it's not. And I don't care what people will tell you. It is the right path to choose, because I am someone who was able to avoid some of these pitfalls simply because of the fact that I was able to embrace some of these things as I was growing up. I didn't understand it at the time. Being a teenager, I had other interests, I had other things to do, but I kept my head on my shoulders properly. I worked hard, and I avoided some of the things that got kids in trouble and get kids in trouble today. And you cannot make it if you get in trouble too early, whether it be with alcohol, with girls, with drugs, with crime. The people that I have 20 people working for me. I figured it up a couple nights ago. 8 of them are on probation.
Wow.
One of them, I'm sorry to say, is on probation for 70 years. I've never heard of that. But he's been with me for 2 years.
That's a lifespan.
He's a foreman. He's changed his life. And he's told me he simply can't make a mistake, because if he does, he's gone for the rest of his life.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he's made some changes, even though he has baggage. And I cannot tell you how much feeling I have for these people who are friends, who are employees, and people I know in the community that don't work for me that are friends, that have a tremendous amount of baggage and are struggling and want help, mental help, of what should they do. He said in verse 13, or verse 12, when you go, your steps shall not be straightened, and when you run, you shall not stumble. That's what you want in life, to not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction. Let her not go. Keep her, for she is your life. And it's your choice to make. It's not something that God forces you to do. Chapter 8, for a couple more scriptures. Chapter 8 is a wonderful chapter about wisdom. It uses wisdom and personifies it as a human being. And it's wonderful the way it presents it here. It says in verse 1 of chapter 8, does not wisdom cry and understanding put forth her voice? She stands in the top of high places by the way, in the places of the path. She cries at the gates. Yeah, wisdom is here crying for people to open the book up and read it and look at it. It is making an offer to you to change your life if you will just embrace God and embrace some of the things he's mentioned in here. You know, God's law is not restrictive. It helps you to avoid some of these mistakes. And when people are in tears, when people are upset, when people have destroyed their lives and have nowhere else to go and to turn, you turn to the book of Proverbs. You know, if you're in AA or you're in some other kind of detoxification program for drugs and things, people have hit the bottom and they've got nowhere else to go but up. And so they reach out and they search for help. And they want answers and they begin to do things. And it's a continued lifelong struggle. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's something that we have to understand and realize. Verse 10, Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies. Oh, is that not the case? So much better than any briefcase full of money that you could ever imagine. Because you will have some of this as life goes on if you put it in practice and apply it. And all these things may be desired or not to be compared to it. Verse 33, hear instruction and be wise and refuse it not. That's the choice so many people have to make. And they have to make it and put forth effort. Because God doesn't do it for me or for you or anyone else. They had to do it on their own. Even Jesus had to put forth the effort to do it on his own. Blessed is the man that hears me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoso finds me finds life and shall obtain favor of the Lord. Mm-hmm. So in conclusion, when you look at yourself as a Christian, as a believer in God, as one who understands his word a little bit, every time I open the Bible I read something and understand something I never noticed before because it's just full of so much. But when you ask yourself the question, what do we have to offer as a Christian, as a believer in God and Jesus Christ? Well, we have the opportunity to tell people that there is wisdom available for them if they'll just open the book and read it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just do this. Just tell them with all your heart. And maybe a few of those lives out there will eventually be changed, because I've seen some of those lives changed just from the fact of people who have put forth some effort and decide to do something different.
Mm-hmm. You know, that reminds me, well, usually when people talk about wisdom, and you said that wisdom is far more valuable than rubies, that always reminds me of Solomon. Mm-hmm. He was able to ask for anything from God, and he didn't ask for anything physical. He asked for wisdom.
And even Solomon made some mistakes with all that wisdom that he understood.
Yeah. He got wisdom by making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. He was
Sometimes we do.
He was a legacy in his time, and still does have with some of the things that he did. But he still made mistakes. When you go against that knowledge with the improper wisdom of applying that knowledge incorrectly, which can happen.
Well, it kind of reminds me what Lisa was talking about earlier is, sometimes we have trials in our life, and the trials that sometimes we go through, we have no control over.
Right.
But what you're talking about is that if you apply wisdom, there's trials in your life that you can just avoid.
That's correct.
That you don't have to go through. That you can actually, solve your trials by what's in God's Word and applying those things. So that's kind of the connection I see between.
Well, and just watching people that friends and family or whatever, of what they've done and what it's done to their lives, don't go down that same road. Make a different path and go down it, because you'll wind up. You're not going to be any different. You're not going to change the outcome of it, because people are human too often.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Any comments on there?
We do have a couple people just saying it's really bad to mess up your life when you're a teenager. And
one thing, while you're looking at that, one thing that somebody told me, like if you're like a teen or like 20, that if you start putting money in the bank for savings, when you're like 20 or 18, just put like $1,000 in and let it draw interest, and you'll be like a millionaire by the time you retire. Just for that, just that one little investment. That you can just have a little bit of wisdom early in life, but I didn't do it. Most people don't do that.
A penny every day. A penny every day, doubled every day for 30 days.
I've been trying to tell my kids that, because I learned that in a financial seminar. Put $100 a month into. If you put $100 a month into a good investment, starting at 18, by the time you're 32, you're a millionaire.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all.
Work hard and put save $100 a month, kids. Do this. It'll help you in life.
So, some of you out there, if you will just figure, and I figured it up in the past, but this put a penny away every day and double it every day for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, you will not believe how much money you have.
Yeah, you won't be able to double it after that.
Yeah.
It gets pretty.
It after 30 days, it's over $1 million, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way life is. If you will begin to do these little things early in life, make it worth your while to avoid them, to refuse them, you're not going to wind up with a lifelong list of things that you are just
Yeah.
never going to recover from.
And that goes back to my topic from last week, training up a child.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Train up a child in
Don't
the way
do,
he should
don't
go.
do
and
what we've done. Do something better in your.
Don't do
when
as I
you're
say.
young.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes, you must use Proverbs 22:6.
I think I did. I used some proverbs.
Yep.
We have any more
no,
comments?
No, I didn't use
22:6.
Proverbs, I'm
Train up a child in the
But-
way he should go, and when he is
Um,
old, he will not depart from. it.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, that was my first scripture. Go.
Very
I
good.
used a lot of New
Very good.
Testament
Well,
scriptures.
right here I have from Myanmar, which some people may know that as
Myanmar.
Burma. I guess that's another
Yes.
name for it. That's a Gum Sing Ong, says Happy Sabbath. So it is the Sabbath.
It's a Sabbath there.
Pretty strong in Myanmar
Yeah.
today. So it's good to have you joining us there as well. Anything else on there? Or we about
Just a
covered it?
couple that have had some trials, some bee
Mhm.
stings, and someone who's about to lose their church this weekend.
Oh no.
So, just prayers for those.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take another short break here.
And
we're
then
gonna.
we'll get to yours.
Yeah, then we're gonna
John.
look at John chapter 2.
I've been missing John.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back into John. We're gonna look at a little bit of chapter 2, just a little bit tonight, because we just want to keep it short and sweet. We're just kind of bring on the Sabbath in a nice little easy way. So we'll be right back in just a moment. Hey, we're back. You just saw that commercial that, and we also want to thank Wesley for producing tonight, and for Lisa's husband Bob for doing the slides for us tonight. Thank y'all for that technical work. But you just saw a video that Wesley put together about the Feast in Wagner. So if you're interested, if that looks good to you, go to our website and sign up today, because the sooner the better to plan for the feast, the better it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tonight I'm going to look at John chapter 2. It took a while, half a year going to John chapter 1 here and there, just kind of mixing in with other things.
That's okay.
But I want to look in John chapter 2, and we're going to look at the first sign that Jesus performs in John chapter 2. And it's very interesting. So I'm going to start reading through scriptures, and we'll come back and comment. So John 2, verse 1, it says, "On the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there." And it says, now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman," he didn't actually say it that way. He said probably a nicer way, not the way I said it, like woman. But he said, "Woman." And this is a nice, actually endearing term that Christ is using. If I were to say that today, it would not sound as nice.
Very
He
misogynistic.
was saying it in a very, very nice way. "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." And his mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Whatever he says to you, do it. So what we're about to see here is the first sign of 7 signs that are in the book of John. Actually, and if you look at the list, a lot of people say there's 7 signs in John, and these are the signs that we see in John. We have a booklet about it, but I actually see 8 signs, because I like to include the resurrection of Jesus as a sign. I think that's the ultimate sign. I think he had these 7 signs that John specifically records, to show you different aspects of that Christ is the creator. But then you have that eighth final sign of the resurrection, which kind of seals the deal. Mm-hmm. So changing water into wine here is the first of the signs. And the other signs that he heals the official son in Capernaum at Bethesda. He feeds the 5,000. He walks on water. He heals the blind man who's blind from birth, and he raises Lazarus. And actually, so this compared to if you look at Mark or Matthew, there's a lot more of miracles that are recorded. But here we just have these specific miracles showing you specific aspects of Christ's divinity. These are there to give you these signs. These are what I would say as proofs that Jesus was not only the Messiah, but that Jesus also was God. So let's look here at John 8. We're going to go to John chapter 8. So we'll look at John chapter 8, and then we'll come back to John 2. So we're going to skip up a little bit. In John chapter 8, in verse 14, this is, I think, the reason why we have these signs. Jesus answered and said to them, "Even if I bear witness of myself, my witness is true, for I know where I came from and where I'm going, but you do not know where I came from and where I'm going." So he knew that he came from eternity. You can imagine that, coming from, I can't even imagine what it is to exist forever and to be, exist how God is. But he gives himself up to become a man, like maybe us becoming an ant or a bug or like a rat or just something, I wouldn't know what it would be to walk around as an ant, going around picking up leaves and following a trail of scent back to the hive. And I wouldn't know what that's like. So Christ, he knew that he came from God. He knew where he was going. He knew that he would be returned to that. So that's what he's saying. Verse 15, it says, "You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. And yet if I do judge, my judgment is true. For I'm not alone, but I'm with the Father who sent me." So this is important. "It is also written in your law that the testimony of two men is true." This is an important aspect that we have of the law. Is that, and this is important, it's really good that we can't, you can't convict someone unless there's two witnesses. Because it can't be like, one person says you stole something and they just throw you in jail because of it. It was very good sense, especially, now we may have forensic evidence, we have video cameras, we may have more proof that could serve as another witness. But back then, if one person says, you stole something, or one person says you killed somebody or whatever, that's not good enough proof. You have to have two witnesses, and that makes good sense. It makes good sense that you have to have two witnesses of something. But he says right here, he says, verse 18, he says, "If I am the one who bears witness of myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness of me." So he's saying here, we're reading John 8, that the testimony of the Father is what we're going to see in these signs. So these signs that Jesus performs, the first one we're going to look at is the water and the wine. All these different miracles that Jesus performs, a human being cannot turn water into wine. So we're all human. Can you turn water into wine? No, I can't do that. I don't know. I don't even. Yeah, it'd be nice if you could, right? Be able to do something and turn water into wine. There's no way. It's impossible for me as a human to turn water into wine. Even if I'm a magician, it still wouldn't be turn water into wine. It may be like a magic trick or something, but you couldn't actually do that. But Jesus, who was the Son of God, he says he's connected to his Father, right? Him and his Father are one. They're connected to the Spirit. He was able to do this, right? Christ, even though he was a human being, flesh and blood like me, because the Father testified of him, right? If Christ did something on earth, the Father honored those things, and Christ can turn water into wine, and so that's the Father confirming that Christ was God. And so this is what witness. There's a person who came to our office. It's been a few months now, and they came here, and they wanted to visit Vance, because Vance had written the booklet. Vance Stinson had written the booklet, and somewhere in the booklet, the guy had figured out that he was Jesus. And so inside this booklet, he's like, "Oh, I read this. I think Vance might understand that I'm Jesus." And so he wanted to come here, and he drove a long distance to come visit and say, "Hey, look, I think I figured out that I'm Jesus." And I guess he talked with Vance. Eventually, he came to my office, and somehow Vance excused himself and was out of there. And so I was left with the guy, and he says, "Hey, I'm Jesus. Don't you know who I am?" And I'm like, well, and here, like if somebody says they're Jesus, or if they claim to be the Son of God, I would want you to prove that to me, right? Prove, do something, right? Turn my cup of water into wine. Do something to show me that you're Jesus, because there's no, you're not just you being here in my office saying you're Jesus doesn't prove anything, doesn't prove it. And so think about it. If Jesus lived his life, right? Even if Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount. If he lived his life and all the things that he said, if he did all those things, but what if Jesus did everything that we read, but no miracles? So take the, and this is what a lot of people try to do who don't believe really in Christ. They try to like mark out all the things that Christ did that was miraculous and say, this is what the real historical Jesus was like. Now, if Jesus lived all his life and said all the things he said, but there was no miracles, and if he was not resurrected, would it be reasonable to say that he wasn't God? I mean, there'd be a lot of people who say, well, this man who said all these nice things, there's no proof. But that's not what we get here, is it? We get something completely different, because the plan was that the Father was going to testify of Christ, Christ was going to be here, and he was going to prove it. All right, so John chapter 2, verse 6. We're going to go back to John chapter 2. It says, now there was set there 6 water pots of stone, according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. So that's a lot. That's a lot of water, right? It's like what, 6 water pots of 30. That's a lot. That's a lot of water. And he just said to them, fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, draw some up now, and take it to the master of the feast. And they took it. And when the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, because they were there. They're the ones that got the water and put it in these pots. And the master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out good wine, and when the guests have how well drunk, then the inferior. It says, you have kept the good wine until now. So this is, yes.
Can I interrupt you for just
Absolutely.
a second? We might need to take a small break.
Take a small break?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate to interrupt you right in the middle of it, but Wesley, are we able to take a break?
I can do that.
Okay. Sorry, we're having some issues on YouTube.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. What's the issue?
You need to get over YouTube. There is some guy that is like,
Hey, we're back. It looks like we have a troll on YouTube, so please disregard or report everything you see that is negative that this man is saying on YouTube, but we will do our best to delete that. So if you can, just hit remove or report, and it should go away there. And I hate when people will do things like that. All right, so we'll go back to where we were, and hopefully we'll do our best. This person's been reported, and they can probably be kicked off our channel. So where we were reading in John chapter 2 and verse 10. And he said to them, every man at the beginning sets at the good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior says, you have kept the good wine until now. Until now. So we're back talking about wine. You ever heard of the wine scale? There's a wine scale from the Wine Spectator, the wine scale. Have y'all heard of that? Mm-hmm. So the wine scale goes like this. From 50 to 74 is not recommended. So if a wine has a ranking of 50 to 74, it's not recommended. If it's 75 to 79, that wine is mediocre. So, again, these are probably like the Ripple or something like that. This is something you really keep wines. 80 to 84, if it's rated, it's a good solid wine. 85 to 89, very good, a wine with special qualities. 90 to 94 is an outstanding wine of superior character and style. And 95 to 100 is a classic, a great wine. So that's how they rank wines. And so I'm not a big wine drinker. Y'all know I don't drink much. Right. I'll drink occasionally. But I was at a church member's house, I think it was last month, and they had a wine, it was written on there, that was rated 95. Ooh. And so I was like, well, I don't drink wine, but hey, if this is 95, and this is like one of your best wines, I might want to taste a little bit of the wine. And you know what? That was pretty good wine. So now imagine the wine that Jesus prepared from water. I imagine that was like 100 plus.
It would probably be 100.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Like that was 100 plus. I mean, so that the best wine you can imagine ever drinking, the wine that Christ had right there. He says, you brought out the best wine. Had to be 100 plus, better than any wine you've ever tasted. Now, a few years ago at the feast, we were at the feast in Osoyoos, and John was there, and we took a wine tour. Right? You remember taking the wine tour we took? And it was at a place called NKMIP Cellars, which Nick Mip, I don't know how to pronounce that, but what it was is like a First Nations or a Native American name. So they ran this winery there, and so we had the little tour, and I think we started out where they showed you all the vineyards, and we could see where all the wines. So first they got to pick the wine, and then what do they do after that? They put it in like the big tub or something.
Big tubs.
And they mash it up, and then they take it inside, and there's these big giant metal canisters that these grapes are in. They're all sitting there, and I guess they probably sit there for some kind of process to purify them, right? They have to purify the wine in those processes, and then they put them into these barrels, like the wooden barrels, and even the barrels for flavor, they have different woods that they choose, and so they take the wine out of after they process it, they put it in these barrels, and the barrels will sit there for years, and after a while, you get some good wine. I think we tasted some good wine there.
Oh yes, we did.
It was good, probably 80s or 90s. For me, I thought it was very, very good tasting wine. And the thing so the thing that was being shown here in John chapter 2 is that this process, right? This process that takes years and years, and it's a process that God invented, right? Fermentation is a process that God invented that we have figured out. This process instantaneously, and it's showing that Jesus has dominion, right, over nature, that he's the creator. This miracle is showing that he is the creator, that he created water, he created wine, and he was showing in this instance that he was creator. So this, in John 2:11, and we're going to end it right here. John 2:11 says, this is the beginning of signs that Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Right, so this was the beginning, showing that he was the creator. And there's no other religious leader in history that did what Christ did. No other leader in history that has any signs or any proof. You're not going to find it. There's a lot of talk out there, since I found this little book, hidden behind my backyard, or this angel came up here to me and gave me this book. You got all this talk, but with Christ, you had proofs that the disciples' witnesses, the ones who filled up the water, they witnessed this, and there's a cloud of witnesses, hundreds of people who were there when Christ lived, who saw that Christ was performing signs to show that he was the Son of God. And so it's just, that's just the first thing I wanted to cover, was just that first sign, and how amazing it is that the Father was showing, through what Christ was doing, that he was the Son of God. All right. Do you have any more comments other than these nasty comments we're having here on
Right.
YouTube?
I'm trying to.
Well, Jesus also mentioned later on too in the book of John, if nothing else, believe me for the works and the miracles' sake, as proof as to who he was.
Right.
Well, let's see. William says that he likes grape juice better.
Yeah, I don't know how they rate grape juice, but there's probably a rating scale for that as well.
He said Mad Dog 2020 is about a 10.
Well, I will say this: just the 4 or 5 days that I was in Soyuz, British Columbia,
Yeah.
which is just across the border north of Spokane, I believe. One of the most beautiful places I've been. You would have thought you were in Napa Valley, California, and they said that was the warmest
nice.
part of Canada. Having lived in Ontario, I can believe it, because Ontario it was a great place, but it wasn't the warmest spot, but it was absolutely fabulous. And I was trying to think of the wine they had there that we tasted that was almost completely sugar. Was it a frozen wine they called it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a frozen wine.
Frozen wine.
What,
yeah.
what they do in a Soyuz, and this is when I'm thinking about Christ turned water into wine. The frozen wine is that the grapes, because of where it's at in Canada, they will freeze over at some parts of the year, and so they will pick the grapes when they're frozen, and then they'll go through the whole process from frozen grapes, and it makes it really sweet.
It is super sweet.
And they had an 8-ounce bottle, which was like $80,
Yeah.
which more than I'm going to spend. But we were able to taste it.
Yeah, we
I tell you
tasted
what, that was of the '90s. That was some good.
It was like drinking sugar water.
I like it a lot.
We
I like it a
we
lot.
buy grapes and just pop them in the freezer, and those are like popsicles during the summer.
Yeah.
You should try them. They're really sweet.
Well, that's about what this wine was like. It was.
Yeah, I believe it. That sounds great.
But anyway, beautiful place up there in Soyuz. I will never forget that. I'd like to go back again. It was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So we don't have any more
Awesome.
comments over there. We're just going to take our last break, and we'll be right back.
The world we live in today is a calamitous place. Nations surrounded by threatening global conditions are challenging the very stability of many cultures around the world. China and Russia are emerging onto the world stage again, becoming world powers to contend with once more. The Middle East, it too wrestles with civil unrest and regime changes, and yes, even Europe, along with the United States, continue their accelerated decline into financial ruin and cultural confusion. Unquestionably, our days are volatile, leading some to believe that yes, we are indeed living on the eve of destruction. Let us help you to add context, insight, and perspective to the issues facing humanity today. Watch The Armor of God, a contemporary program providing a clearer understanding through the light of biblical prophecy.
All right. Thanks for joining us this evening for Bring on the Sabbath. We have not made it to the Sabbath yet. We still got 20 more minutes, but we're bringing it on.
Almost.
We're close.
Bringing it on here in East Texas for you. So enjoy the Sabbath tomorrow.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. We'll be back in a month, and we'll let you know about that.
14th.
July
July
14th.
14th.
So join us then. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great Sabbath.
May God be with you.
Bye, everyone.